corporate real estate executives operate in a very structured environment. Sometimes it's very bureaucratic. Sometimes it's very political. But oftentimes what they're looking for is safety and comfort in knowing that they've selected somebody that is in it for the long haul, somebody that has their best interests in mind, somebody that's going to make them look good, somebody that's going to help them keep their job, and somebody who's going to be very effective at doing what it is that they're purporting to do. And in order to sell to that level of individual, you really have to bring a different approach to the picture than most brokers do. And what I've found to be very successful is in establishing rapport and building relationships with corporate clients is a few different techniques. One of them is called the 5-touch protocol, and that allows you to build a relationship and establish trust very quickly by really looking at ways to help that individual within their business before you start to sell.
Whoa. Let me interrupt here now.
Okay.
You start talking about touching, I start to hear all those listeners turning us off.
This is really giving them things that help them in their job, giving them intelligent information, giving them a work product, giving them other types of deliverables that have them believe in you and believe in what you're providing them before you go in there and try to sell them a service or a product.
Okay. All right, that sounds reasonable. Go on.
So one of the things that we do initially in our 5-touch protocol is we might bring to the client a top-of-mind issue in the industry. First of all, for instance, one of the things we do is we send them an article that I'd written in the past that outlined the difference between transaction management and brokerage. Brokerage has a series of identifiers that are very different than what we do in the area of transaction management. And when we show that to a client, it really sets the stage for what makes us different. Doesn't sell anything. It just says, this is our approach to doing business. It's very, non-confrontational, and it's really something that will open up a dialogue. You send that article to them. You call them back after a week or so and say, hey, what did you think of the article I sent you? And it's usually something that invites conversation. Again, there's no selling going on. It's really just communicating around a philosophical topic.
Okay, so you're just basically establishing some kind of relationship by giving out some information.
Right. And then the second thing is that while you're doing this, you've done some research on the company, so you're trying to find out a little bit about the company's strategy and direction. The next thing you might send them might be an article on the upcoming accounting changes, the FASB lease changes that are taking place, where all operating leases in the future will need to be capitalized. Most companies haven't addressed that issue. And by sending them an article about that and saying, hey, we're experts in this type of discussion and this type of topic, again, you can ask the follow-up question, what are you doing with respect to these upcoming lease accounting changes? Now, there's a good chance that they haven't done anything or that they're unfamiliar with the topic at all. Or if they are doing something, they'll be happy to tell you what they're doing because they're probably pretty proud of it. So again, you're inviting conversation by giving the client a piece of information either through an article or a piece of work product that will invite them to have a conversation with you.
And of course, if they are doing something really interesting, I suppose you could pass that along to others, couldn't you?
Absolutely. Now, if they're not doing something, there's an opportunity there to say, hey, we'd love to come and sit and talk to you about this. And again, when you create that opportunity, you offer it up as a suggestion as opposed to, I want to meet with you, when can we sit down? And so one of the things that we do as part of our 5-touch protocol is, because my team is traveling all around the country anyway, we'll say something like, well, you know what, we're going to be in your neck of the woods probably in the next 6 to 8 weeks. If we're in town, would you be willing to meet with us? That tends to be something that is well received.
Okay, all right.
So then the next step is, if you've gotten to that point where you think there might be an opportunity to meet with this client, the next thing you might want to send them is a piece of information about what their competition is doing. And again, you invite the conversation by saying, hey, XYZ company is doing this. They're in your space. They're in your same industry. What are you guys doing in comparison? Are you doing something very similar? Your competition might be expanding in China or doing something else, especially international. that might be a question that would invite discussion as well.
Okay.
All of these things are set up to allow you to do what I call a discovery, really getting involved in your customer's business, finding out as much as you can about that company and what's driving their business. By the time you get that opportunity to sit down and meet with them, you've got a really good handle on what that client does, how they do it, what their business drivers are. You might even know enough about the internal politics and the internal workings of that company to come in and be a real effective salesperson versus somebody cold calling and then trying to walk in to sell a transaction.
Sounds great in theory. You got any real-life examples?
Well, yeah. We were able to meet with one firm in Raleigh and sat down with the client, had the opportunity to show them a little bit more of what they had a preview of, which was our account management tools and techniques. We have a whole presentation around that. And very interestingly, at the beginning of the conversation, we were told, well, you know what, we use a different service provider. We're probably not going to make a decision to change, and, we're really happy with what we have. We've took them from, their implied needs to really explicit needs in the course of dinner. And we are right now talking to them. The individual that we spoke to wants us now to present what we presented to him to his leads in both Singapore and in London.